Hello, people. You're welcome to ProUp Masterclass. My name is Tola T.A. Alabi, and I want to start by saying Happy New Year. We're in the year 2024. I really don't like putting dates and timelines to my podcast, but then I realized it's important for context and for documentation. But I really hope it doesn't cause some form of disconnect between me and someone that is listening way in the future, in the year 2050 or the year 3000. But for context, it's a new year right now. It's the year 2024. And for everyone in the present with me right now, I want to congratulate you for making it to this year 2024. Um, and I want to thank everyone that has been listening to my podcast and has been making the effort to share my podcast with their friends and their family. Thank you very much. And I had a great 2023 because I committed a lot of time to this podcast. And it's been pretty fruitful from the feedback I've been getting from people online, the calls I've been getting, people saying they've gotten a lot from the podcast and it has helped to give them a sense of hope, direction, and guidance. And that's why I set out to do this podcast in the first place. So thank you for everyone that was kind enough to send me their feedback. I really appreciate it. And let's try to do 2024 together. So this will be my first podcast for 2024. And I think it's pretty important to start with what I'm going to be talking about today. Because I believe that the beginning of the year is a very important part of the year. It kind of sets the tone for how the rest of the year would go. Some people's year will be on track just by the mere fact that they started the year well, and some people's year would go off track just by the mere fact that for the next few days, 4 weeks, they didn't make the right decisions and they didn't have the right mindset, and going to throw off the remainder of the 11 months ahead. So I want to start by talking about the four passengers in your car. Four passengers in your car. I know that might sound a bit abstract, but I'll try to bring it home right now. I had this discussion with people in my mentoring group at the end of the year. I think it was the last thing I kind of told them. And I was talking about your life being a car, like a car. Your life is like a car. It heads in a particular direction. You understand? Goes back and forth. So your life is like a car. It's a vehicle. And I want to talk about four passengers that we usually let into our car. And some people have more than four passengers, but I feel it's integral to have four passengers in your car. Healthy life always has four passengers in their car. And I'm going to kind of go through who these passengers are and how they should be arranged in your car. Very important. Who should be driving, who should be sitting in the back seat, who should be sitting in the front seat, and why I arrange them that way. Now, I'm a family man. I have 3 kids, a wonderful wife, and you see, whenever we go out, there's an order in which we sit, and we try not to break the ranks, because breaking the ranks could just cause huge chaos for whoever is driving. I'm normally the one driving, but it's very important that that order is followed for us to have a peaceful, pleasurable ride. And the same thing with your life. It's very important that you know your passengers and you know where they should be seated. So, for some of you to have good direction in your life in this year 2024, you need to order your car well, so that your car can move in the right direction and get to the end of the year, not just safely, but in a fulfilled, peaceful, enjoyable way. Very important. Not just to get there safely. You don't want to just get to the end of the year and just say, I survived. But then you want to say, I got to my destination where I was meant to be, and with a sense of fulfillment, joy, and um, peace. You understand? Very important. So I'll go through the passengers. And I think I'll start with passenger number one. Passenger number one is who we all know as your emotions. Your emotions should be in the car. Everyone has emotions. Very important to have emotions. God gave us emotions. They're important. Um, so every life, at some level, should be an emotional life. You know, when I was much younger, I used to see, I used to frown at people that were highly emotional. You understand? And that was for a lot of reasons. So I didn't like when people cried too much, were just, very emotional. Any small thing they cry and stuff like that. And, I got married to someone that was very emotional. My wife is very emotional, and she kind of taught me the need to connect with my emotions. You see, so growing up, I just thought, okay, I'm a man. Boys don't cry. Boys suck it up. So when someone cries, I just see it as a form of weakness. But, meeting my wife and, knowing that she's a pretty emotional person, I realized it was not a form of weakness. It was a form of honesty. And it took some years for me to embrace this form of vulnerability and honesty, but it has been refreshing. So emotions are very important, and I feel everyone should have their emotions in the car. But now, the issue is where your emotions sit. Emotions very important to know where they sit, because a lot of people um, put the emotion in the driver's seat, and that is a very bad decision. Your emotions should never rule your life, because the person in the driver's seat is in charge of the car. Your emotions should never, never, ever, ever, ever. Your emotions should never even be in the front seat of your car. Your emotions should be seated at the back seat, somewhere at the back seat. Maybe directly behind the driver, or to the other side of the driver, but should be seated at the rear. And one thing about your emotions is, if you're going to personify the emotion, if it were a person, would be a child. Not just a child, an infant, a baby. Very cute, adorable at times, but can throw tantrums, can be flighty, can distract you if you're driving in a car. So the baby needs to be in something called a car seat. So not just sitting at the back, it should be strapped in a car seat, then now strapped to the seat of the car. So that's double strapping. So when we had children, we had them in car seats. So the car seat had two straps. One strap was to strap the seat to the car, or to the actual seat of the car. Then the second strap was to strap the baby to the car seat. That's how you strap your emotions. Double strapping. And why do you do this? Because your emotions can be very unreliable, very adorable, very cute, very, very vulnerable, you understand, very honest, but then not very mature. It can also be very selfish, very self-seeking, and that can cause a huge distraction. Your emotions doesn't know how to drive a car. Like, a baby doesn't know how to drive a car. It's senseless to put a baby at the driver's seat, at the steering. Very senseless, doesn't make sense, shouldn't happen. You are guaranteed to have an accident if your emotions are driving your life. If you're going based on how you feel, whether you're happy, whether you're not happy, whether you are, you are excited, whether you're not excited, whether you are offended, whether you're not offended. If those things dictate what you do this year, your year cannot go well. That's your emotions in the driver's seat. It cannot work out. That's putting a baby behind the steering. It will take a miracle for you to get to your destination safely. I can almost guarantee you wouldn't get to your destination safely. So your emotions should be in the back seat, not just in the back seat, in a child's car seat and strapped in. And make sure that the child lock on at the door at the back should be activated. Because that's how risky your emotions are. They fiddle with everything, every single thing. So they could just open the door of the car and jump out of the car. You understand? And that will make your journey very unpleasurable and could cause huge disaster. So your emotions at the back, but they should be in the car. They could be very adorable. They could make the journey very interesting. You're just glancing back at it from time to time. They say some very adorable things, some very nice things. They could make the journey enjoyable, but don't put your emotions in the driver's seat. Your emotions should not run your ear. Second passenger, that should be in the car. A lot of us have in our car. Your ambitions. Your ambitions. Your ambitions and the things you want to get done. Those things you desire. Your ambitions. They should be in the car. Whether you like it or not, you have them. They're in your life. You understand? They're just some things you want. Some things you want to achieve. Some places you want to go. Some professional heights you want to get to, some relationships you want to build, those wants, those desires, those dreams. We all have them in our lives. No matter how much you want to get rid of them, they pop up every single day. So they're parts of our life. Your wants, your ambition. A lot of you have ambition for the year 2024. Professional ambition, marriage ambition, parenting ambition, personal dreams, things like that. You have them in your life. Now your ambitions should also be seated in the back seat. You might ask why. Because your ambitions, they're not infants. They're not children. There's something more interesting. If you're going to personify your ambitions, they're teenagers. Teenagers, young adults, young. They haven't reached maturity yet, but they're very impulsive. They have an idea of driving, but not a full exposed one. You see, the thing about teenagers is the part of the brain where judgment, where the human being is able to make sound judgments, not fully developed. You understand? That part of their brain is not fully developed in their teenage years. So they don't think things through very well. Teenagers are not great at thinking through things and knowing repercussions. So you see, teenagers can take very terrible risks. You understand? So when you put a teenager at the driver's seat, they might drive the car, but then they might get into a car chase. You understand? Or a car race with the next person. Just thinking, oh, this person's going to overtake me. So their legs are very heavy on the accelerator. They're always pressing the accelerator. That's the only pedal they know, the accelerator. They don't engage the brake very often. You understand? The accelerator. They always want to go fast. Go fast, go far. That is what they call progress, how fast they are moving. And that's what your ambitions are like. It's always thinking about forward movement. Every single time, forward movement at the shortest time. So all those dreams that you have for this year, a lot of you will be very happy if those dreams happened in January, February. Very few people are thinking, oh, I won't mind if this thing happens by December. So people that have even weight loss dreams are thinking, okay, I want to lose weight and get to my optimal weight by February. A lot of times unrealistic. Your ambition not very patient. Not very patient. Should never be in the driver's seat. It might get you to your destination, but very rarely in one piece. It might hit someone. It might scratch against the curbs. It might blow the engine of the car by driving too fast. Remember, it's always thinking about getting there fast. Very impulsive. Highly impulsive. Highly impatient. It's highly distracted too. Can get highly distracted too. So it's always fiddling with the radio and just thinking of, oh, what can I listen to right now? And just stuff to just amp it up. Very dangerous to have it at the driver's seat. It's always telling you I can drive. It's always telling you I can drive. Most teenagers say, Dad, let me drive. I can drive. I can drive. I can drive. I can drive. Oh, your ambition always tells you to take over your year. You see, it's that aggressive, that impatient. There is a theme in quote in Nigeria now, a theme for 2024, where people are saying 2024 is a year of no gree for anybody. No gree for anybody. That's what people are calling the year. No gree for anybody. The first time I saw it, I was very amazed about how easy it is for people to adopt and to force a positive spin around things that are very openly have negative connotations. It's very easy for people to force what they see as a positive spin around things that have open negative connotations. You see, that no grief for anybody. I don't think anybody should start their year or go into the year with a mentality of no grief for anybody. I've heard a lot of spins on it that are trying to be positive, but then it seems like forced spins. And no grief for anybody is an ambitious thing. It wants its way, it wants it now, it wants it at the expense of anybody. It's very teenage-like. Not fully thought out, not fully reflected on, but adopted. Never let that kind of person drive your year. So I'm saying if you're going into your year with a mentality of no grief for anybody, you might want to reconsider it, or you might strongly regret it. That's your ambition driving your year, saying get what you want, how you want it, when you want it, as soon as you want it. No grief for anybody. That's like a teenager driving, no grief for anybody. That policeman flagging you down, no grief for him, just keep driving. That person wanting to cross the road is going to delay you, no grief for him. If you have to run him over, run him over. Do you understand? The terrible thing, that traffic light, going yellow, it's going to turn red very soon, no grief for it, just keep going. Can you get to anywhere safely by not grieving for anybody? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. I wish I could do an experiment with someone that starts and completes their year with no grief for anybody. And I want to see how far they've gone. And you see, some of them will achieve, but I want to see what their emotions, the things that were broken along the way. I would love to see that. If anybody's willing to go up with that experiment, saying you're going to adopt that mentality of no grief for anybody, make it to the end of the year with your achievement, but I can guarantee there are going to be a lot of things destroyed along the way if you make it to the end of the year in one piece. Ambition, backseat. And it should also be in a seatbelt, in the backseat. But it doesn't need a car seat, you understand? It doesn't need a car seat. You don't need the child's lock, because an ambition is not going to try to kill itself intentionally, you understand? So it's not going to do anything like that. But it's going to try to take the steering. It's going to try to tell you that it can drive and it should take over. You understand? It's going to try to take over your year. But keep it in the backseat. Now, the third passenger is a passenger I would call your logical self. Maybe I would call it your conscious self, / logical self, your sense. You understand? Your logical, rational self. You understand? Now, this is very interesting because it seems like a good driver. It is a good driver. It has some experience of driving. But you shouldn't, if you're going to personalize this person, the person is an adult. The person is an adult, has some experience of driving. Not as flighty as your emotions, not as impatient as your ambition. Experienced person. But that's the problem, the experience. It has had some good and bad experiences, and it judges how to drive by the good and bad experiences. So the person is very fearful, you understand, because he overthinks things a lot. So he gets to the junction and thinks, should I turn, should I not turn, should I turn, should I not turn? So it doesn't make decisions, firm decisions, scared to make decisions based on past experience. Like, oh, when I drove yesterday, I turned and I almost hit something. So it's always judging. I know with car driving or with driving, there's a lot of judgment, but then you must make your judgment before you even set out. So if you're going somewhere, you must know I'm going to use this route. You don't get on the road and now think I'm going to use the route. And that's why it can be pretty frustrating when you're driving with someone who is trying to guess where they are going. They can drive, but the mind is not stable. You understand? So they try to turn left and I'm not going left, I shouldn't go left, I should go right. You understand? They're always questioning themselves. They are too much in their head that they can't focus on the road. Now, this is called your rational self, your logical self. Now, this person should be seated in the front passenger side of your car. They're good to have as someone beside you. They're good to have in your car in the front. You understand? They make very good conversation. You understand? So your logic, you spend a lot of time thinking and logically thinking of how 2023 went and stuff and making decisions, and that's good. You understand? Learning from what you did last year, how you can do things better this year. Your logic, you understand? This is what's called your brain, what you've learned from experience, what you've learned from content you've consumed. You understand? Very important. As you listen to this podcast, your logic is what is majorly engaged. You understand? So you're thinking about whether it's making sense, what you adopt, what you won't adopt. You see, it's very mature. But you see, those things should not run your life. They shouldn't. Because the truth is, there's a lot of information out there. And because of that, there's a lot of confusion too. And I see a lot of people that are logical people scared to make moves because they're looking at what's the economy like. You understand? What's the economy like? What's the naira like to the dollar? You understand? You know, they have a job, they don't really like it, and they're thinking, if I leave this job, how will I get another job? That's the logic really thinking. So they stay in very bad jobs. They know it's bad, but then the logic is thinking, look, this person just lost their job. See how hard it is. They are struggling to feed their family, to maintain themselves. If I leave this job, I'll be like that person. It's the logic. It sounds logical. A lot of times it's not true. A lot of times, your logic might be true, but a lot of times it's not true. So I see a lot of people with great potential stand still because they are so scared by past experiences or by other people's experiences. So they spend so much time considering. I once worked in a place where salaries were owed for months, up to 6 months or so. And at a point when we got to half the year and salaries weren't paid, I was like, I'm leaving. I should have left like 4 months ago, but then I don't know how I stayed 6 months. That's ridiculous. And when I tendered my resignation, a lot of my colleagues were like, oh man, I'm going to leave next month, just like you left next month. And I left. I was like, okay, see you on the outside. Interestingly, till today, and this has been like many years ago, this has been like almost 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, about 20 years ago. These people are still there. Still there. The same guy that told me I would leave next month, right after you, are still working those jobs, and the organization is still the same, owing salaries, even for longer. Because those people are totally rational. And because they're totally rational, they become irrational. You understand? So they believe something will change, but it hasn't changed. They believe it's better to have a job that doesn't pay anything than a job that pays, that be out there and be sure not to get anything. But you are still as bad as someone that has nothing. Even worse, because now you have to pay for transport every single day to go somewhere where you aren't going to make money. So you are working at a loss as opposed to someone that is just sitting at home and doesn't have to incur any of those expenses. The logical thinking, a lot of times, hampers us. We get stuck like a deer stuck in headlights. When they see the headlights, just freeze. And why they freeze? Because they don't know what to do. Should you go forward? Should you go back? And what happens? They get run over. You understand? You don't want your rational self to be in charge of your year, because it will make mistakes. It makes some good judgment, but it does make a lot of mistakes too. A lot of wrong assumptions based on fear. And your life should not be run by fear. It can learn. That's why it should be in the driver's seat. It should be in the front passenger seat. It learns. It's open to learning. You understand? It needs more learning. It needs to be guided. You understand? That's why it should be in the front passenger seat. Now, who should be driving? And this is where I'm going to come to your spirituality. Your spirituality should lead your life. Your spirituality is your connection with God. I see so many people trying to take this passenger out, and they are still surprised why the trip isn't really good. Why they end up having accidents, or not getting there in one piece, or the car breaking down. Why they end up feeling lost in the middle of the journey. It's because your spirituality isn't driving. You've given it to either your ambition, your rational self, most people to their rational self, and the ones that don't even know what they're doing to their emotions. Those don't get very far at all. But I see people trying to take their spiritual self out of the car and hoping the journey goes well. It hardly would. And I'll tell you why. Because your spiritual self has been there and done that. It has traveled that road so many times. It knows the road. It knows the road in the morning, in the afternoon, at night. It has a driver's license. It checked the car before getting in, checked the tires. It knows the road. It's the only one that can get you there safely. The only one. It doesn't get distracted. It does not flighty. It makes sure everyone in the car is safe. We must surrender to this passenger. This passenger is the only one that can get you to the end safely, in peace, have an enjoyable ride. You can even sleep off while the person drives. That passenger is the most experienced driver. That passenger is God. God in you, talking to you, leading you, directing you, connecting with you. That is what should drive your car, your spirituality. And that's why I say it a lot. People who don't believe in spirituality and think it's just made up stuff for religious people, I don't know how they make it through life. Seriously. A lot of people think I try to preach through this podcast, but I'm not even trying to preach. I'm just telling you what works. I've tried it, and I see that a life that is not spiritual cannot work. We need guides. We need more experienced drivers. And your brain won't do. Your ambition wouldn't do. Your emotions sure won't do. The only thing that can do is your spirit man connected to God. You must have a way of connecting to God. You understand? You must have a way of connecting to God. If you didn't pray in 2023, pray in 2024. If you didn't read your Bible in 2023, read your Bible in 2024. It's not that hard. I think the problem is people make, the problem I have with religion is that people make it out to be an achievement. You understand? So I pray for, it's like you're trying to get into Guinness Book of Records. I pray for 5 hours. I pray for 4 hours. I read my Bible every day. I read my Bible. I've gone through the Bible 5 times this year. It's not about those things. It's not about 5 years. It's not about reading through your Bible 5 times in 1 year. It's not about praying 5 hours a day. It's not about those things. It's about feeling the need to do it. Whether it's for 1 minute or one verse in a year that you're going to run with and just continue going over that 1 year, over that one verse every single year. Every single month of the year, every single day, you go over that one verse. That's the only verse you've read. It's enough to guide you. You're not trying to get in the Guinness Book of Records. Forget about the person that wakes up at praise at 4 p.m. Read a lot of things that online. And I once read online, there was someone that said, oh, if you're a man, you don't wake up in the middle of the night to pray over your kids, then you're not starting. So all those standards we kind of set. No set standards for people. No, I don't think so. I'm not asking anybody to wake up at 4 a.m. and going to pray for their family. No, I'm not asking that. I'm not saying connect with God. Start with a consciousness and an acceptance that is God. And then build a relationship with God. And let that relationship form into a dependency on God. And then all these things we try to do, we just find ourselves doing it. I'm not trying to wake up at 4 a.m. I just do it. Because there's a dependency. Just like I'm not trying to breathe. I breathe because I'm dependent on oxygen. But it starts with baby steps. And take those baby steps today to be a more spiritual person. What does that mean? It means just accept that you don't know the way. And there is something out there, an entity out there called God, who knows the way, who loves you, who wants to help you, who wants to drive that car. Just start with that and see what happens. I guarantee you, He will speak. He will lead. He will lead. You begin to feel inspiration and inclinations to do things in particular way. Some of them might not make sense. That's why your rationality cannot lead your ear. It might not make sense. But then we must trust when He tells us to do this. It's just like, when you're traveling on a plane, you really can't see what the pilot is doing. You just trust every prompt. So when they tell you get back in your seat, you don't know why you're getting back in your seat. You just have to get back in your seat and strap your seatbelt. When you see that seatbelt sign go up, you don't know why. You understand? You just have to obey. You cannot say, tell me why first before I convince me. No. And that's what spirituality is about. You're trusting the pilot. You're trusting the driver. When driver says, put on your seatbelt, you put on your seatbelt. When driver says, I want you guys to keep quiet for a minute so I can focus, you keep quiet for a minute so the driver can focus. That's your spiritual self. And that's the self you want to lead your ear. It's that deep down voice inside. That is not really your voice. It's not your voice. It's the voice of God just speaking through you. And it comes through a surrendering to saying, I accept that there is something out there that wants to live within me to guide me. That's where spirituality starts from. You take time to connect. You read the Bible and say, how does this apply to me? And something tells you. It might not tell you immediately. You might even walk away from it. And weeks later, it tells you, oh, this is how it applies to you. And you're able to say, I accept how it applies to me. That is spirituality. And that's what can lead and drive your year. That's what should be in the driver's seat. Guaranteed, you'll make it to your destination safely. Interestingly, it might not be your destination, but you make it to the destination safely. The best destination. It drives and it leads where you should go. It tells you how fast, it tells you when you should park, it tells you when you should refill, it tells you when you should check your car fluids, engine oil, water, whatever it is. It's an experienced, caring driver. And that's who should run your year. So those are the 4 passengers. Spirituality, your logical, rational self, your ambition, and your emotions. Now, on the side, there's an interesting passenger that we all let in, that most of us let in, but we have to be careful going into this year. He doesn't come into the car with us from our home. Always hitchhikes, side of the road. It's called other people's opinion. And I'm just going to say this as a footer. Very careful whether you let this person in. You might let this person in. They might be a good driver. They might be a good passenger. Remember, they are never the driver. Never let them drive your life. But you can let them in. Remember, a car can take more than 4 people. So 1 more person can be allowed if you want to. Optimally, if you want to be really comfortable, let those 4 people in. But you can let this fifth person in based on who they are. And what I mean is this fifth passenger, other people's opinion, the biggest problem with it is because it's always a fat person, overweight, morbidly obese, very fat, other people's opinion. You let him in, it can make your car very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. You understand? Squeezes out your emotions, makes your emotions tantrums, squeeze your ambitions and stuff. You understand? A lot of times might corrupt your ambitions. Very distracting. So he's always overweight, morbidly obese. Another thing is very chatty. So he could distract you. You understand? Distracting. Always chatting. Talking, never keeps quiet. Now, when you see those signs, don't let that person in. But there are some that are not bad. They're not overweight. They don't talk too much. They're wise. They get into the car. And they're able to even calm your emotions, that toddler, that infant. You understand? Play with it from time to time and get it under control. They're able to advise your ambition. And they're able to, you understand, have reasonable conversations with your rational self. And they're able to encourage your spirit person to keep going. But you must be very careful to let them in. And that's why you must leave the driver to make the decision of letting them in. The driver is the one that makes the decision. Spirit man. Very important that that person makes the decision. Not your rational self. Your rational self will think, oh, this person is stuck. Let me pick them. Or the person will think, oh, I picked someone last week, or I read about someone being picked last week and they were kidnapped. So they leave the person that they should pick in the car. You understand? Very important to not let that person make the decision. Your ambition, your man is very selfish, you understand? He's always looking, should I let this person in? What shoes are they wearing? Are they wearing Nikes? Are they fashionable? Let's pick them. Are they hot? They're a girl? Let's pick them. Never listen to that. Never listen to that teenager. Looking at the wrong things. Your emotions doesn't even care. It can open to anybody. You understand? As long as the person is flashing something, have a toy in their hand, and just, you can't listen to that. Never saying something articulate. Let your spirit man know whether you pick up hitchhikers, other people's opinion. Most of the times, you don't need them. And I hope this session would help someone as we start this year, 2024. And even if you are listening to this and it's not the beginning of the year, we've gone the middle of the year, but the latter part of the year, it's never too late to let the right driver get in front or get behind the steering and take you to the right place.